And with this basic understanding about this topic, lot of people have so many queries about it. Many of them ask what to ask, when to ask, what to see, where in the case history do you see this problem and we couldn't see. The idea about how to be able to palpate the exact problem of the individual. And when we see in the debate cases also in the workshop, many a time we miss the most important aspect of the person. Because human mind works more than their special senses. Our special senses are simply put to sleep, and the mind is made to work more, and therefore we think a lot, and the thinking is more of assumption. Our mind works in this way. I think so. I felt this could be the problem. I felt this could be the issue for this person. And we tend to gather a lot of information. And we try to apply our knowledge more than anything else. If you look back into your own cases, if you simply listen to your own cases, the idea that you will, if you keep yourself aloof and listen to those cases as if someone else has taken, you as a third person, when you listen to your own cases, you will see this I factor prominently coming. I thought, I imagined this could be the problem. And that is the most important problem as anti-84 aphorism of Organon. I use the word anti-84 because Hahnemann has clearly mentioned over there in the very first line of the aphorism. It is the patient who narrates his or her story. And the first line itself, we are completely antidoting. It is simply that we are asking the questions. You see, the patient details the history of his suffering. The very first line. And where do we allow the patient to talk? Our qualification, our knowledge, our I comes into picture. So my dear friend, the first and foremost thing that we have to surrender, submit this I back before we enter into the cabin to take the case. The idea should be, the mantra should be, I don't know, you please tell me. I simply do not know. I don't understand. And when this particular things start coming up that I do not understand, begins the next after the comma is the curiosity to understand. And we all have seen this during our younger days, school days, college days. Any friend who knows some secret, till the time we know it, how curious we are. Hey, tell no, hey, tell no, hey, tell no, please tell no. What happened? What happened? We are so much edgy in wanting to know. Exactly the same way is to understand other human being who has come to your doorstep to seek for some help. What is it that he or she has a problem about? And further in that 84 aphorism, what he says, those about him tell what they have heard him complain of, how he has behaved and what they have noticed in him. How he has behaved and what they have noticed. And who notices in a human being? It is not the brain that notices. It is the eyes. The watchful eyes notice what is happening to that individual. And further he says, the physician sees, hears, and then remarks by his other senses. Nowhere in the paragraph he gives you that physician understands, thinks, and then applies his thought. It is only what he sees and what he hears. Only two things. And what he is seeing is this altered or unusual character about him. Not the usual character, it is unusual character. The altered state is what is being observed by the people around and the physician. And see that most important thing down over there, which is a very, very difficult task for we Indians. Keeping silence himself. He allows them to say all that they have to say. And how many times do we really miss this? You see this in breaks, you see this everywhere. Moment there is chance, blah, 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 and blah, and blah. There is no substance to that talk. There is no concrete material to that talk. But it is simply talk and talk and talk. And therefore, the idea as a homeopath, if we can really understand, silence speaks. I think you all have heard this thing called as silence speaks. And it truly speaks. Because remember, when there is silence, you always create an aura that is penetrative. If you all have ever understood this idea, why in olden days people used to have temples outside the village. Most of the temples would be outside the village. most of the temples would be on the hilltop. The reason for that is silence. The reason for that is walk that distance if you have to worship. The idea behind that is you feel the freshness of the environment around, and therefore allowing that space to surrender to the Almighty so that you feel relieved. And with that has a scientific meaning, because I always wondered why all these are outside the village. Why all these are typically on the mountaintop. Why we have to struggle so much and reach there. The idea is physical exercise. The idea is freshness of environment. The idea is peace and silence that creates an aura to our soul. And it is a deep meditative and medicative therapy. If this is true, what our ancestors have done, why can't we apply the same thing even in a place where it's a temple where you sit down to heal as a healer? And therefore Hanuman beautifully writes over here, keeping silence himself, he allows them to say all that they have to say, refraining from interrupting them unless and until they wander off to other matters. So you create that space and you create that atmosphere for the person to actually surrender to you and allowing themselves to open up whatever is the deep turmoil within them. Do not be in a hurry to get anything. Nothing comes easily. And it is so difficult for our own self to tell our problems to anybody. So likewise, the other human being who has come to you, it's not easy for that person to tell you his or her problem. Your aura should be in such a way that you are ready to receive the information. In Hindi, we call it as karuna. You should have that sort of an aura which is making the person to open up, rather than directly having an eye-to-eye contact and tell me your problem. You stand stiff like this or you sit stiff like this and tell me your problem. The will simply create a big wall for them to open up. And therefore, one of the important aspects, what people ask me, how can you reach to that level of experience of an individual? It is very important is voice modulation. Mark these words, voice modulation is utmost important. And I would say if you cannot practice it, because certain places we just have to flow with the person's wavelength and frequency. You have to give them that sort of a comfort that you are no different from anybody else. and allowing this idea that you are one with them. To understand and to feel and to experience what the other person is experiencing. To understand, feel, experience what the other person is experiencing. That's the reason why Hanuman says perceive. And perception comes from our senses, not from our mind. It is the eyes that perceive. It is the ear that perceives. It is the smell that perceives. This is star stools. This is what is foul odor. This is like fish brine odor. If you have a pungent, spicy, or a hardcore hot green chili, your eyes and mouth will not water when it goes into the stomach. The moment it touches the tongue, you start feeling the pungent effect of that. So it is the tongue that tastes. You cannot make out a person having fever from a far off distance. I think you have 103-degree temperature. So it's the touch that matters. And what we do is we simply use our mind to think. And later on, I'll be talking about the drama in the case. Every case has a drama. And the drama cannot happen without two characters. To cause stress in an individual. And the two characters in that drama is I and you. The I is permanently that individual who comes to your doorstep. Register this. This is I, the individual who has come to your doorstep. And that I is disturbed because of something called as you, which is around, in and around that I. Because without that you, if that you was never there, the I would have been in a nirvana state. No you, no disturbance, it's nirvana. And so the you causes all the problem for that I. This is how I look into the cases. First up, what I think is, what's the drama, what's the play in this individual that is happening? And the you for that person, for that individual, can be human or material, or something abstract. Only three things are possible. The you as a person could be his spouse, could be his children, could be his relatives, could be his friend circles, could be his office colleague. The human you. Where this I has a problem with this human you in life. or else this I can have a problem which is non-human, that is material. My money, my jewelry, my house, my property, like these type of material things could be a problem for that I, which makes that I to be disturbed. And the third, that is abstract, what I put it as, is something which is neither human nor material, where the person is living in the world of assumption. I think so, something is wrong with me. I think so. So it's all about abstract thinking. मुझे लगता है. Nothing is in reality. It's neither money nor a person. It's neither material nor a person, but something that is an abstract assumption. So I divide this I's problem into three categories. The first category, is it a human that is a problem for this person? Is it material that's a problem for this person? Or is it something abstract that is a problem for this person? So once the first step is segregated in the play, in the drama, then I look for the thinking process of the I, the perception of the I.